Howdy folks, Tex Grebner here with Tex Grebner Outdoors. Hope you guys are ready for your Tex Grebner Outdoors Saturday morning cartoon awesomeness. Now I know I don't post every Saturday like I used to. Being a grown-up sucks. But I hope you guys are ready to make it weird, because it's time for the slow descent into madness, the visceral mystery of the hunt. That's right. It's Tex Grebner Outdoors Illinois Archery Season 2024. Is this the year that I break the whitetail curse? You're just going to have to watch and see. No spoilers. Now, if you guys want to support the channel in a way beyond simply watching the videos, you can go to texgrebneroutdoors.com. Check out the Make It Weird sticker, the Make It Weird shirt, the Life Ain't Like the Pornos, Hunting Ain't Like the TV Shows shirt, and of course, my personal favorite, the Kill with Sticks shirt. And I tell you what, life ain't like the pornos and hunting ain't like the TV shows. And here on Tex Grebner Outdoors, clear all the way back to 2009, I have brought you the reality of what I do as I try and live the dream. Now, if you're looking for a discount on all your trad life supplies, especially your bow fishing gear, use the code TexGrebner in your checkout at threeriversarchery.com on orders over $100. That will give you a free shipping discount. And I do really appreciate the fact that even after all these years, Three Rivers has not cancel cultured or dropped me from their sponsorship program. Now, Three Rivers has their own code, but if you use my code, it lets them know that you support what I do. So use the code TexGrebner in your checkout at threeriversarchery.com on orders over $100 for free shipping. Especially because bow fishing seasons, well, basically right now, because it took me forever to actually get around to making this video. If you're looking to armor the front of your arrow, use the code TGO10 at ethicsarchery.com. That will give you a 10% discount at Ethics Archery. Now, if you're in the market for some high-end hunting ammunition, or you want to make a 12 gauge be able to kill a rhino, check out my friends at Archery Ballistic Engineering. I believe God has a real good sense of humor, especially because in a purely logical multiverse, I wouldn't exist. I am way too ironic to exist. What I mean is, I am cartoonishly durable as Conan the Barbarian from the fantasy comics. And yet I have the physique of a Clydesdale draft horse. But while I'm at it, I also have demonstrated skills multiple times with stuff like spears and bolos and heavy draw weight bow and arrow that people that read fantasy romance novels would drool over. But yet here I am. Now, I also think that God has a sense of humor because I will tell you the truth about things that no one would believe me if I told them that it was a lie, because nobody would make up lies as stupid as the things that I tell the truth about. So I decided that I was going to put in a food plot. Spend $300 on food plot seed, because I've got the money because I don't have the time. You either have the time to do what you want or the money to do it with, and you almost never have both. So I put in the food plot to kind of hedge my bets. And since I knew that I wasn't going to have a lot of time, I figured I'm not giving up on traditional archery, but we're kind of going steampunk this year with an Oneida lever bow. But I'd taken the lever bow fishing, so it, got fish slime on it. And here I am outside editing video, and I've got the Oneida on the table next to me that I'm working at. Editing video, it's after dark. Stray cat jumps up on the table. Twang, bang, snap. That damn stray cat gnawed clean through my bowstring chewing on that fish slime. I tell the truth because no one would bother to lie about something so stupid. But I live in reality. So anyways, I basically had to rebuild my Oneida. Luckily, it didn't delaminate. They're very durable. And I have not given up on my Bivouac Outlaw. I still, love heavy draw weight traditional archery. But at the same time, I knew that I wasn't going to have enough time. I needed to make sure that when I was able to get into the stand, that everything was going to be right. So once I got everything reset up on my Oneida, I went about building arrows. So the setup that I was going into the season with was a 200 grain point, so a 4-blade 200 grain iron will. Ethics insert, outsert, I'm using an aluminum post and a steel sleeve. The traditional only bare bow additions from Three Rivers, shield cut feathers, green nocturnal nocks, and the reflective arrow wraps, which are my favorite. Something that always mystifies people is the fact that I can't seem to get into my stands quiet. That's what I got to come down to get down here on the flat. This only exists because it's non-tillable acreage. This exists because of that, so it's a double-edged sword. I can't get here without going down that. And when it's dry like this, it's not a huge deal, but that rope is there because it is dangerous as hell getting down that when it's wet, or if the leaves are wet, or if there's frost or ice. So I've got the rope. Here's the fence row. There is the magical land that I'm not allowed to hunt anymore because I lost the lease. So this is what I got. So anyways, who's ready for a tree stand tour? Ta-da! I guess we're going to see if my food plots came up, or if the cows ate them down to the dirt. Wow. It ain't great, but there it is. I've got a little tiny bit of clover in here, continuing the tree stand tour. At least this one is still up and doesn't look beat to crap out of by the bull or the other cows. Well, we've got one little piece of clover that took by this stand, so not great. Well, hot damn, we got a little bit of clover over here. Not a whole lot, but we got a little clover on this side of the creek. I got to stand over here. For those of you wondering why I never bothered to plant food plots, I wasted $300 on no-till alfalfa mix and clover mix for this and the other side of the creek. That's what I was putting out in the crank seeder back in early March. Frost seed, no-till, perfect. When I came back in about April, I had a carpet like that underneath this fescue. Cows have been in here since June, and they ate it down to bare dirt, at least between the fescue scrub. So the truth is, I did a great job with pasture enrichment. I did a real shitty job of having my food plot survive the cattle, but that's the odds that we here at Tex Grebner Outdoors are up against. But at least all my tree stands aren't destroyed by the bull this year. So I've got one here, and I don't want to limb this tree out any more than what it is, because when those leaves drop, I'd be way too open. You know why you can always trust me? Because nobody would ever make up something as stupid as the things are that happen in my life and expect anybody to believe them. So you can always trust me to tell the truth, because it will be either way stupider or way stranger than anything in fiction. I bring you reality, and the reality is my tree stands are in good working condition after the cattle have been in here for a while. but the food plot's pretty screwed. Didn't really expect it to work, but I was hopeful. Good news is, I'm not any more screwed than I normally would be, but that's still pretty screwed, and we're going to make the best of it. I love adventure, and I hunt for thrill of the chase. And it's kind of funny how when I used to be able to travel more for Tex Grebner Outdoors, I'd meet people from around the country and they'd ask me, hey, when are you going to go do an elk hunt for archery out west? And as much as I would love that, well, I live in the Midwest and I work in agriculture. That is so unrealistic that it's not even funny, because from mid-August until basically Thanksgiving, your life is a blur. I mean, it's a blur, because September is completely out of the question. I basically didn't even have an October this year at all. And so it's funny how people would ask me, hey, when are you going to go do an elk hunt out west? Well, that's, as a grown-up with responsibilities, not really feasible for me, because in September you're doing weaning of the calves off the cows, you're doing the fall roundup where you're doing feedlot vaccinations and basically vetting all the livestock, and then you're getting everything ready for harvest, and then you're going into harvest. And so an elk hunt, not really realistic for me, but I would love to do like a bison hunt with archery equipment in Wyoming, free range, if I could draw that tag one of these years. But then again, that's -30 in Jackson, Wyoming in like February. So, a boy can dream. Being responsible sucks. It really does. Everyone's life experience is equally valid because we're all humans. But if you want to have a really funny conversation, if you wear a high-vis shirt to work, we used to call things being blue collar. Now everybody that would be in a blue collar profession is wearing a high-vis shirt mostly. And so if you want to have a real funny conversation, try explaining that you can't just breathe through your stress. You can't just turn off your anxiety, because these aren't fictional situations that you're worrying about because you have an overactive imagination. You have an overactive imagination, and you are working in an environment that can be dangerous if you are not hyper-vigilant and doing your job in the most OSHA-approved way possible. But even then, there are things that aren't preventable. So you've got to be hyper-vigilant in preventing what you can prevent and instantly reactive to the things that you can't prevent to keep everybody safe. And so there's definitely white-collar anxiety and high-vis life anxiety, where no, I'm not saying that everybody's life experience isn't equally valid, because it is. But if you're wearing a high-vis shirt to work, you're having anxiety about real things that you can't just relax and ignore. You have to be responsible. Now, I hope all of you had a good opening day, because opening day of archery season, it is such a special time. Opening day of any season is a special time, because from the time season ends, opening day only happens once a year. So from the time the season ends until opening day, all you're doing, if you're truly passionate about what you do in the outdoors, is plot and scheme, plan, pray, hope, and daydream about what might be happening out there in that darkness before dawn opening day. What dreams might be waiting out in that phantasmagoria before the sun comes up and with the cruel light of reality washes away that dream and leaves you with whatever is actually there. But opening day is always so special. And even if I'm not able to hunt opening day, I think about opening day all the time. Naturally, my opening day, we were working calves for the fall roundup, and then I went to work. And my October was a blur. My September was a blur too. But finally, things were starting to wind down, and the harvest was almost all in, so it was time to basically clean things out. And let me just say, lockout, tagout is incredibly important. Workplace safety is incredibly important. What's funny is when you work as much overtime as somebody as I does, you don't make any money because you lose all your overtime to taxes. But things were winding down, and I was finally going to be able to get out hunting. Hunting in the rain sucks, and it sucks a lot, but it doesn't suck as much as not being able to go out hunting at all. And so once the harvest is over with and things kind of wind down a little bit, if I get a rainy day, then I can actually get out and go hunting. And because I do love what I do, of course I'm going to go hunting. One thing you've got to be conscious of when you go hunting in the rain is the rain going to wash out your blood trail if something shows up and you actually get a shot off? That's also only important if something actually shows up. Now what's funny, for sure, is the fact that I know I can't be the only one that thinks about this. When I'm not able to get out hunting, all I can think about is getting out hunting. I can't wait to get into my stand. And then you walk in, maybe you kick a deer or two out in front of you because that's just the way that real life works. So you kick a couple out in front of you, get into your stand, you get up in your stand, and you're so excited to be out hunting when you aren't able to be out hunting. But you get up there, you sit down in your stand for like 15, 20 minutes, you start looking around and think, man, I ain't gonna see shit today. But hunting is a visceral mystery, and you never really know what's gonna happen on a hunt until you've been there and done it and walked out at the end of the night. Because every time that you go into the woods, it's a brand new adventure. I guess you could call me a good hunter because I have a lot of tenacity. I mean, I don't know anybody that would still do what I do other than me do what I do if they had to deal with what I have to deal with, and while we're at it, have as many dry seasons as I have and still keep doing it. So I don't have a lot of success, but I try and make up for it with tenacity, because I will go out on days that there's absolutely no point in going out. I've sat through snowstorms, ice storms, the trees blowing sideways and I'm getting seasick. I mean, if I have the chance to go out, I'm going out. I ain't going to be real happy about it, and I'm going to pray for the sun to go down quicker, but I'm going out. Because it's always a brand new adventure. You sit and you watch and you wait and you listen, and all it takes to turn the most boring, mundane hunt into a heart attack is having a squirrel scurry through the leaves. You'll catch that squirrel's movement out the corner of your eye, and your heart will start thumping. And you're instantly reminded why you love what you love and why you do what you do. Because it is so unpredictable. It is the visceral mystery. Something that you feel in your guts, but you can't explain it. And it's something that brings us all together as humans clear back to the very beginning, since we struck fire from living rock. No, we don't have to do this anymore. But some of us choose to do it because in a very violent interpretation of Zen, it can be a search for enlightenment. Now, with that being said, I am also not a morning person. I would probably have better luck, naturally, I'll be honest, if I could haul my ass out of bed in the morning. But I am super not a morning person. There are definite stages to an archery season. It starts out with, oh, I want a big buck. And then it turns into, I want a buck. And then it turns into, if it's brown, it's down. And then it turns into, oh, I don't need a big one, I just need a dumb one. Send me the dumbest, lostest fawn that just ran out of his spots. It's kind of funny that way how the season goes. There's an old quote that goes something along the lines of, faith can move mountains, but it can't beat a faster draw. And now it doesn't matter how good your gear is if you can't use it. So it is incredibly important to stay sharp. Because in the moment of truth where life and death hang in the balance, there are so many factors that you cannot control that you have to be able to control the factors that you can. Some people talk about worrying about losing their religion. Now, I don't have any worry about losing my religion because, as I said at the beginning of this, I have an unshakable faith in God because in a purely logical universe, I'm too much of a contradiction to exist, and I believe God has a sense of humor. So I never worry about losing my religion. I worry about losing my poetry. I worry about losing my sense of whimsy. And I feel like I fight every day to protect my inner child. But yet, just when I think I might have lost my sense of poetry, a deer, the wily whitetail, for no reason will jump the fence out of the cornfield, and this goofy little forkhorn out at 50 yards will cross in front of me twice, going to the rub tree that I can't get a tree stand near, and then circle alongside of me. And all I can think is, please come over here. And if he comes over here, don't screw it up. It's early November, mid-November, and the rut should be kicking off any hour now. But they're still hitting rubs, they're still hitting scrapes. And I'm still sitting with my heart thumping in my ears until I hear him jump the fence. The wily whitetail will do whatever it wants, whenever it wants, for any reason that it wants to. And that is to say, for absolutely no reason, or for any reason at all, or it won't do anything at all. It doesn't matter how much buck lure you dump on the ground. The fact of the matter is, the nature of the visceral mystery of the hunt is that it is capricious. When you're dealing with wild animals, that is why there has always been some form of God, some form of mystery attached to the act of hunting by human beings. The moon was rising, and I was wondering if I might get lucky. If you've been watching me for a long time, then you've definitely heard me call hunting whitetail from a tree stand a high-stakes game of whack-a-mole, because many of us have more than one tree stand. So much of whitetail hunting is being able to read the sign on the ground and find their travel routes, figure out where they want to be, and find a tree alongside of them. But it's a high-stakes game of whack-a-mole, like life and death Chuck E. Cheese, because they're going to do what they're going to do whenever the hell they want to do it. So you've got to predict which tree to actually sit in. And there's also a high likelihood that you're not actually going to be able to find a tree that is perfect along their travel route. Now the moon was in the sky and the rut was on. And I had a doe, a young buck, and a giant. I think he was either a 10-pointer or an 8-pointer. A real big one come through. But naturally, they were way too far for an ethical shot. I probably could have sent an arrow, but I didn't have a shooting lane. The arrow wouldn't have even got there. And so the high-stakes game of whack-a-mole goes on. The slow descent into madness has begun. So what I had to do was I had to go along the fence line and find where they were actually crossing the fence, because it didn't seem like they were going to be coming down toward the creek on this travel route that I had been on in the catalpa tree. So I had to find a different stand that would be closer to their point of entry. So it's weird how your faith can be restored, that you might have a chance of success, but also your confidence can be shattered because you were so close to things turning out right. You were so excited. And then the wily whitetail did what it was going to do regardless of your plans. Now, of course, the high-stakes game of whack-a-mole is the slow descent into madness. Because when everything is perfect in one sense, odds are they're going to come behind you and catch your wind. Oh shoot, I totally forgot to tell you, but you probably already noticed that I ended up tiger striping or raptor striping, however you want to think about it. But I ended up painting my Oneida with some Rust-Oleum duck boat paint since I had it apart this year, doing some maintenance on it after I rebuilt it. And so that's just a little bit of personal flair, some medicine, however you want to think about it. Now, I tell you what, there is nothing dumber than a 3-year-old rutted up buck, except for a button buck. But there is nothing smarter than a 6 or 8-year-old granny doe. It don't matter what you've got going on. That doe has survived so many seasons that she's going to bust you at 50 yards and wreck your day. Now you might have noticed, again, that I don't wear camo. Yeah, sure, I wear the hat, but I don't wear camo. And normally I hunt in my work clothes. And I do try and play the wind, but even then, sometimes you just got to deal with what God gives you and hope for the best. I don't wear camo. I wear big bill wool pants, swan dry shirts, and a swan dry ranger jacket. 100% or 80% wool. And that is just, in my opinion, the way to go. The reason that I gave up on camo is because technical clothing just doesn't work for work. And since I've got to be efficient in making sure that I can get out hunting literally as soon as I can, I care so much less about scent control and so much more about, okay, if God's going to send me a ram in a bush, then I'll take it. But I don't give a shit what anybody says. If it's a 6 or 8-year-old doe, even a 4-year-old doe, she has got her head on a swivel. She's going to bust you. Because as you're seeing right here, it ain't like I can just go straight from work to the stand. I've still got work to do. Because I live in reality just like the rest of you. And here on Tex Grebner Outdoors, I bring you the reality of Illinois archery season. Here in Illinois, it's illegal to bait deer, and that can be frustrating. When you hunt on film, you better be hunting within the letter of the law. because there's going to be proof. And if you are big enough in the outdoor industry and you aren't hunting within the letter of the law, somebody's going to call a warden on you and get you investigated. So it is hilarious to me every year how I have to explain that no, I can't just put out a corn pile. Because even if I did put out a corn pile, what am I going to do when somebody calls a warden on me and I broke the law? I am not ethically against hunting over bait where it's legal. Hell, I've hunted over bait in Oklahoma for high fence pigs. Ethically, no problem. However, morally, from a fair chase bow hunting standpoint, I got a problem with it because it's illegal here. Now I said ethically in one sense, and then I said morally. Let me explain. It is against the law, meaning that all us bow hunters are expected to follow the law. When I talk about fair chase bow hunting in this context, I mean man versus man in the competitive hunting of the whitetail. I'm not talking about fair chase man versus animal, whether or not it's moral and ethical to hunt over bait. That's not the issue. Because ethically, where it's legal, I've got no moral or ethical objection to it. But the fact of the matter is, where I live, where I hunt, it's illegal to hunt over bait. And I know damn good and well, were I to ever have success hunting over bait, the same person or people that keep trolling me about that I need to throw out a bait pile would be the first ones on the phone to the game warden. You know what's fun? Sitting in an early October deer stand when the woods are still lush and verdant. It's 40 degrees in the morning when the sun's down. It feels cold, but you know better. You know that it's not cold. It only feels cold because it's going to be about 70 at noon. And it'll be about 50 when the sun goes down at the end of shooting light. That's fun. You know what's not fun? Being a grown-ass man that can't go hunting in early season, misses most of the daylight hours of the rut, and is sitting on a fence row on a small plot of land in late November, early December. That's not fun, but that's all part of it. That's reality. That's how much I love what I do. That's how dedicated to what I do that I am. But it's hilarious that I'm literally sitting here thinking about, oh God, why the hell am I out here? And then a squirrel rustles, or an owl lands above my head. And I'm instantly reminded that we only get so many deer seasons in our lives. Just because it's not fun doesn't mean that it won't be a good memory. One of the most important conversations in your life, and I mean this very profoundly, is that scene in that movie where I'm tired of this, Grandpa, and the grandpa says, that's too damn bad. And that is something so profound. I'm tired of this. Well, you know what? That's too damn bad, because here we are and this is what we're doing. And I find it hilarious that it is abundantly clear that a whole bunch of people never had that conversation. Oh, I'm tired of this. Well, that's too damn bad. I love hunting on snow, though. I hate hunting in the cold, but I love hunting on snow.
Well, I'm coming through. So just chill. Just chill, beaver.
Some of you are probably thinking to yourself or yelling at your screen, "Hey Tex, why didn't you smoke that beaver? It was right there. You couldn't have missed." The answer is, that beaver was doing its thing. I was doing my thing. Had that beaver bolted, I probably would have drawn back to anchor and smoked it and had beaver barbecue. But the truth is, it wouldn't have felt right. Everybody always talks about in Christianity, how would you treat a stranger if you didn't know that it was Jesus? There's nothing that says God won't put tests in your path to judge your heart by. So no, I didn't smoke that beaver because it sure wouldn't have felt right. If it gave me a sporting chase, sure. But it was doing its thing. I was doing my thing. And I'm not going to take a sadistic act of opportunity. That's not how I operate. But every day of hunting is exactly the same. And every day of hunting is just a little bit different. And it connects us to our ancestors, no matter what color we are, no matter what religion we are. Everybody eats, everybody drinks, everybody sleeps, everybody fucks, everybody dies. And everybody wants to be a cowboy until it's time to do cowboy shit. I pretend like I'm fearless, because you gotta fake it till you make it. But this past summer when we were working cows during the summer roundup for vaccinations, I had this crazy cow try and climb over the working alley. And I had to climb up on the chute with 1,800 pounds of feminine rage pawing the sky, grab this cow by the nose with hooves and shit flying around my ears. Because God help me if I let this cow hurt herself. Especially because if she got up and out of that chute and over, it was going to be chaos when she hit the ground if she didn't break a leg. What's really funny is how when there are natural disasters in the Midwest, absolutely nobody in the rest of the continental United States cares. Because it's the Midwest. The Midwest has such a volatile climatic zone. That's the God's honest truth. It can be negative 20 and snowing one day, 40 degrees at noon, give you midnight tornadoes after the snow melts, and then the next morning at 6 a.m. when you're getting ready for work, give you an ice storm. And just like how the Midwestern weather is very unpredictable, the Midwestern whitetail is also very unpredictable. Doing my best to sit still in a deer stand with ADD and ADHD when every rustle of a leaf, every squirrel, every bird grabs my attention. But I've also talked about in the past how I feel like ADD and ADHD are like caveman superpowers from when we were actually hunted by things that wanted to eat us. With that being said, I'm on the wrong side of the rut. I'm on the wrong side of both gun seasons. Now the deer have PTSD and they're looking for food. And guess what? The cows ate my food plot. Cold, shivering, watching, waiting, listening. The slow descent into madness continues. The whitetail curse goes on. Now you may be wondering why I don't actually hunt the gun seasons. And it's not because I wouldn't want to, but I have to draw a tag for whitetail shotgun season in Illinois. And I never know if I'm going to actually be over within the harvest and actually be able to use those tags. So to save money, I don't even bother to put in for them right now. And so it just leaves me as a bow hunter. Now, as much as I hate being cold, I love hunting on the snow because there's something so enchanting about sitting in a snowy wood. It's beautiful, and it's savage, and it's bleak, and there's something about it where you will growl into the wind and tell it that you're staying, that old man winter won't make you quit. Because anybody can hunt in October. But when you get on the wrong side of Christmas in the late season, now you're in bragging rights territory. Now you're not just going out because you think you're going to be successful. Because if you were going to be successful, it probably would have happened before now. You're going out into those winter woods because you're going out. And nothing is going to stop you. Or at least that's how I feel about it. And after all, every day of hunting is exactly the same. But every day of hunting is just a little bit different. And you never know what's going to happen on a hunt. I know I talk about jokingly that Wiley Coyotee is my spirit animal. He gets beat up, but he never quits. But the slow descent into madness continues. Wondering if on my birthday, December 29th, God will bless me and my struggles. But God has an adorable sense of humor when it comes to me. And I do love hunting on snow because, as I said, it is enchanting. And what I find hilarious is how badly writers, when they write fantasy books, represent hunting on snow. It's hilarious. Now, I'm very guilty of having read the whole Sarah J. Maas Court of Thorns and Roses series, all the way up through Court of Silver Flames. Super guilty of it. But it has a pretty glaringly bad winter hunting scene at the very beginning of Court of Thorns and Roses that almost made me quit the series. I mean, it was bad. But life ain't like the pornos, and hunting ain't like the TV shows. The Illinois archery season goes on. Trying to juggle my real life responsibilities, trying to look after myself, trying to break the whitetail curse, and hoping that if I'm presented with an opportunity, that my skills will still be as sharp in the moment of truth. Now, I have juggled around a few deer stands this fall so far and into the winter because even though people talk about how you have to be super low impact, the deer are going to take the routes that the deer are going to take. So as I've said in the past, you've got to find out where they're going and how they're getting there, and then try and be alongside them. Because I'm very introspective, I hate when people talk about how you should be mindful. Because most of us, we don't need to be mindful. We are not vapid. We don't need more reality. We need escapism. Because reality is staring us in the face every single day, and we are constantly overthinking every mistake we ever made, reliving memories, and trying to create better outcomes for the future. Now, I guess one of my toxic traits when it comes to whitetail hunting is when it gets to the tail end of the season, I'm already thinking about next year. I've moved a deer stand to a certain spot. And the truth is, the next beat of our heart isn't even guaranteed. I try and live life to the fullest, but next archery season isn't guaranteed. And so, yeah, that's one of my toxic traits. When I know that the season is probably a wash, I start daydreaming about the next one to avoid the reality of what I'm dealing with. But hunting is so full of its little ironies. When you're facing one way, the deer will come from the other. When the wind is right, the deer will come from the wrong. And that's just the way that it is. Watching, waiting, listening, wondering if I should save up and buy a boat. because that's what's going through my head when I'm freezing my balls to a deer stand. Thinking about summer spearfishing season, when it's nice and warm, sticky hot and verdant, and thinking about spearfishing in the Illinois river bottoms, push-poling around the swamps in a pelican boat. Illinois in January is misery personified. The only thing that sucks worse than Illinois in January is Illinois in February. It's negative 15 degrees today, colder than it is in Barrow, Alaska. The Midwest don't make any damn sense. Sitting in a deer stand after working outside all day, ain't been warm since I left my bed. And yet, here I am, trying to think happy thoughts. But to be honest, I'm kind of fantasizing about hunting alligator down in the Florida Everglades. But I'm also convincing myself that I'm training myself to go on that bison hunt in Wyoming someday. But the season's winding down and the slow descent into madness continues. And day after day, I go out. And to tell you the truth, if one of them fantasy elf girls was to show up out there in the snow, one of them fey creatures, oh yeah, hell yeah, you bet your ass I'm going with them. I keep waiting for some hot cryptid to lure me deeper into the woods. What's funny about me daydreaming about semi-tropical places is that I've probably spent a safari worth of money in US dollars trying to break the whitetail curse. I've upgraded bows over the years. I've upgraded broadheads over the years. I've upgraded arrows over the years, and I am so grateful that Three Rivers sponsors me on a lot of my supplies. I have upgraded my deer stands over the years. I used to hunt out of $35 Menards ladder stands. And then I was using Bobcat and Bearcat guide gear stands. And now I have upgraded into using muddy stands with the mesh seats. Now granted, the mesh seats are nice, but nothing makes an Illinois January in a deer stand actually fun. But at least so far, for whatever reason, the squirrels are not eating my deer stand seats. So that's good. Sitting in a winter wood, I find myself trying to convince myself I'm having fun. But the truth is, I am. Because I'm sick like that. It's like Tex Grebner Outdoors presents Escanaba into Moonlight. All good things come to those who shoot straight. Ah, boy, I tell you what. I have seen some strange things that are terrible and beautiful. I have seen a blue heron spear and then swallow a mink. I have seen a squirrel get swooped up by an owl. I caught that on film, if you caught it. But I've also seen beautiful sunrises and beautiful sunsets. And I hunt for thrill of the chase. And the wily whitetail runs year after year a merry chase for my Wiley Coyotee ass. And so my season, while a comedy of errors, is real. I live in reality. And the reality is, so many times sitting in my stands do I see deer passing just out of range, or worse yet, within range, but on the wrong side of the property line. Now obviously, I respect property lines. As I've said, I hunt on film. I have to be within the letter of the law, not just the spirit of the law. Watching, waiting, listening, the season winding down, dreaming and shivering, But just like Escanaba in the moonlight, if you don't know where to start, go back to the beginning. Midwestern weather is so volatile in January because one day it can be 33 degrees and raining, it can snow overnight, and then it's negative 25. And it's the last hours after work of the very last day of the season. And I had the choice of, am I going to go out? No, that's a lie. It wasn't a choice. There wasn't even a question of whether or not I was going to go out. Because hunting is a visceral mystery. And if you don't think I was telling the truth about God having a sense of humor, it's the last 2 minutes of the last day of the season. And this little button buck shows up. And I think, oh man, it's negative 25. I don't know if this is even legal shooting light. And he walks right in front of me. And I hunt for thrill of the chase. But I'm a prisoner to my ethics. Another season come and gone, the whitetail curse unbroken. My heart in my ears, frozen tears streaming down my cheeks. All I could do was laugh. Because I had hunted. I had done my best. Win! And hunting is a visceral mystery. You win! Oh, shit. You can't make this up. You really can't. I know I'm gonna catch hell about this, but I literally had everything packed up and the shooting light right now is questionable. So, that's just the way that it went down. The last few minutes of the last day. You can't make this up. Life ain't like the pornos, and hunting ain't like the TV shows. Oh, thank you, God. That's hilarious. Well, it's all over but the crying, and that's not even true either, because you got to see me laugh and cry at the same time like a lunatic talking to a deer. Now, I ain't gonna lie. I made this video at the beginning a year ago, last spring, when I was putting in that food plot that failed. And here we are in May. It was very difficult to be motivated when I know how the story ends to go from last spring up until the last day of the season and pretend like I didn't know how it was going to end. But I promised you, as long as I'm alive and I got a channel, there will always be an Illinois archery season. And even though I know how the story was going to end, I owed it to you guys to actually tell you the story, because being a storyteller, that's damn near about as old as being a hunter in profession. So I hope you guys have enjoyed watching this year's episode of Illinois Archery Season for 2024. Whitetail curse still unbroken. Wiley Coyotee still my spirit animal. But hunting is a visceral mystery, and you never know what's going to happen on a hunt. I bring you the reality of Illinois archery season, the way that it happens, and you can't make up stories as dumb as the ones that happened to me. As always, God bless all my sportsmen of America. Join the NRA to protect our rights. Please check out my friends over at threeriversarchery.com. Thank you very much to those of you involved in law enforcement and those of you serving in the military. And thanks for watching Tex Grebner Outdoors. Maybe next year I'll break the whitetail curse. But I really do appreciate all of you that have watched me this long. Because I don't know a single person that would do what I do that wouldn't have quit by now. I'm like the dusty roads, hard times of bow hunting.